I was secretly in the closet, not just about my sexuality, but about the fact that I was a ballet dancer, like took class every single day. And one day, I will never forget, 7th grade, I was sitting in class and they said on the announcements, and ladies and gentlemen, this Christmas, it seems as we have a star in our midst. I will never forget, that was like literally the sentence she said. Todrick Hall is starring in the Nutcracker. I mean, of all musicals,
of all the ladies, it's Nutcracker.
I was like, no!
Where are you from?
I am from Plainview, Texas. Well, I still haven't figured out how to answer that question because I was raised in Plainview, but then in high school, I moved to Arlington, Texas. When I was a freshman or sophomore in high school.
What was the attitude towards sexuality? You know, like in Plainview up until 14, like what was that like? And then also in the high school that you moved to?
At the school that I grew up in, first of all, I know that like in the Black community, I feel like it was, you know, if you wore an earring on the wrong ear, you were gay. And if you smiled in a picture, if you wore flip-flops.
If your pants were 3 inches sagging instead of 4 inches.
Then that meant you were sagging too much, that meant you liked something.
You wanted something.
And it was just always these crazy made up rules that I felt like were so intense, but if you didn't follow them, like you were gonna be bullied for the rest of your life. And I knew at a very young age that something was different. I was not a super sexual person. I was more creative and like just wanting to dress up. I just knew that something was always different about me and I didn't know what it was, and I didn't really question it, and my mom supported me so much. But I remember when I started to think that there was a chance that I might be gay or that I might be different for sure, it was a very scary thing because I remember watching the Ricky Lake show or watching Maury Povich. My family members would be like, that is just
nasty.
A mess. Pray for him. That's all you can do is pray for him. They've gone too far. Look at him wearing those, whatever. They would just say things that would, on one side, make me laugh because the way they would explain it would be like kind of funny and comical, but then on a completely different side, I felt like I might be one of these people, and if I end up being that, then this is what my family members will think of me.
What age was it that you were able to be like, I feel different?
I don't remember. I just remember that we had a lot of free time on our hands and we would sit down and watch movies and with the family. And I remember watching Who Framed Roger Rabbit and seeing Jessica Rabbit and her coming out. And my cousins were like, ooh, you know, and I was like,
It's so funny that you mentioned Maury Povich and like Ricky Lake. Were you raised by a single mom or?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, me too. And like, I feel like the latchkey kids know like the daytime talk shows.
Yes.
And it really does kind of inform a lot of impressions you make about society, you know? It's like, yeah, it would be like that, like, oh, there's something wrong with them, or like, oh, that's an example of someone who's mentally ill. Like, if you saw people that were expressing their sexual identity or their gender identity, at the time, it was always under this like, what a freak.
But at that time, they weren't putting people on there to show us being normal people that blend into society and have regular day jobs. Like we all had to be like wearing crop tops and screaming and wearing nails and glitter. And that was what I thought a gay person was. So I didn't really identify with that, even though now I have a song called Nails, Hair, Hips, Heels, and I came in here in heels. But I didn't really at that time identify with that, but I knew that something was different about me. And another thing that I don't think I've ever talked about is that in the Black community, and I don't like to speak for the entire community, but I know that there are a lot of people who probably feel this way. I've never had this conversation with another Black man, but going to the barbershop was like the scariest thing for me because it was the epitome of masculinity. It was all these guys talking about girls and talking, using the F word in regards to gay men and saying all these crazy things. And I would always remember trying to pick my outfit carefully, trying to figure out how I could say the least amount possible because I needed to go there to get my hair done. But I always hated that experience. It was always like, for some reason, that place specifically, even now, I will pay 6 times the cost to get my hair done.
To have someone come to you and cut your hair.
To have them come to me to cut my hair rather than to go into a barbershop.
It's almost like you're putting on this veil of masculinity.
Yes.
You're like, how do I toughen myself up so I can get my hair cut?
Yeah.
When did you stop keeping the secret from yourself? Like, when were you able to be like, oh my God, I'm gay? And then when were you able to say it to another person?
I moved to the high school, and the first time I ever went to this high school, we went to a pep rally, and there was this cheerleader there, and his name is and he was so fine. And back then, I know this is just like Trashy the musical, but I used to turn up for a tongue ring. If you had a tongue ring, it was over. He came out and tumbled and the whole crowd went wild, and then he turned around and was like,
oh my God!
And I couldn't hear it because I was in the stands, but I imagined what the metal would have been like, you know, on his teeth, and I was like, oh, he's just hot. And he would look at me in the stands and be like,
I mean,
I just would lose my mind, even still now, just thinking about it. And he had this like really deep voice, and he had those like 98 degrees Nick Lachey tips.
Oh, with the little tips,
yeah,
little frosted tips.
All that moment. Yep. That was a moment when I knew. So then I told my friends that were in show choir and stuff that I was bisexual, so that at least that way I can feel like I'm halfway normal. I'm not a complete freak, it's just 50%. And then I started talking to
was he gay,
He was gay
out?
and out. I was a freshman and he was a junior. I started hanging out with him, and that was like my first guy to like ever make out with, and we just like really hit it off, and he was the only out gay person that I had ever met at that point. So I think that's part of the reason why like I was so attracted to him, because he was so confident and so unapologetic, and I just was like in love with him.
I'm kind of in love with him.
I felt like I was the star of a 90s movie.
I mean, I want to see this movie. So when did you start telling people openly? Like, when did you start living out of the closet? And who was the first person you told?
I feel like my best friend, Cecily, I haven't said her name in a long time. She was my best friend in high school. We bonded over that song. I wanna lick you from your head to your toes, and I wanna move from the bed down to the toes. I love that song. And I told her, and she was so sweet. And then I told my friends, like just like a close group of like 5 friends. And because they were all so accepting of it, I kind of just was like, you know what, I think I need to tell my mom. And every night I was talking to he had such a great relationship with his parents, and they knew. And I remember thinking like, okay, I'm for sure gay, but I'm not gay enough to have a boyfriend. Like one time was like, what would you say if I asked you to be my boyfriend? And I was like, I gotta go. And then I hung up. And I was like, why would he ask me some shit like that? Like I was so appalled, even though I like could not think of anything but him all day. Like I just doodled, I love on everything all day.
The mind has a funny way of kind of like manipulating situations. Like you could literally be in the midst of having sex with someone and be like, why would you think I'm gay?
Yes, exactly. Anyway, we never became boyfriends because, crazy story, he came over one night. My parents were gonna go out of town for once, and I had the place all to myself. I went to the barbershop, which I did not like, but it was the price you have to pay to be ready for to come over for what could have been like the sleepover where the most epic things happened, because we had never seen each other like naked really. Like this was gonna be the first time we both lived with our parents. And so my mom had never let me be by myself ever, and she was going to be leaving, and so she left, and there's a tornado came because we lived in Tornado Alley. So then it was not in our town, but it was like on the way to where they were gonna drive to. So they were like, we're just gonna be here. And by that point I had made plans. So we had this garage area where I kept all my costumes and props and stuff. And I was like, all right, I'm just gonna sneak into the garage. My parents never wake up. My mom, we are notoriously like such hard sleepers, like you cannot wake us up. And so I could not drive. I like took my parents' car, drove to go get which he only lived 6 blocks, so in hindsight he could have just walked. And then we stayed up all night watching a movie, and then we literally started hooking up, and all of a sudden I heard the garage door open, and I knew my mom was coming.
Oh my God, I have chills right now.
And so there was an upstairs in the garage where all the costumes were, and I was like, okay, I had already made a plan. There were all these costumes, and I had just put on a production of The Wizard of Oz and like at 14 years old. And so I was like, all the costumes are up there, just go hide in the costumes. And so we're frantically running around, and my mom starts knocking on the door saying, Todrick? And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm scrambling to get my clothes on, and he's running up the stairs, but butt naked. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? And then I open the door and I'm like, hi, Mom. My mom knew that he was there. She called him out and made him come downstairs.
And meet her.
I was like, he's gonna be butt naked. And he came out in the Munchkin costume, and I said, hot. He walked down the stairs, and my mom went and got her Jesus oil and put like crosses on both of our heads and made us pray to rebuke our gay demons.
Oof.
And she was like,
so I take it coming out to your mom didn't go super smoothly at first.
Nope, it didn't. I sat her down, And she was just devastated. I remember telling her, first of all, just in case you want to know, spoiler alert, things didn't work out with after that. If you're watching this, I'm sorry that my mom performed an exorcism on you against your will. I sat my mom down because I felt like I needed for her to know, and we were such good friends. My mom and I, we were very close, and I was like, she's gonna understand this. And I imagined, like, honestly, I wasn't that scared, and she did not take it well. I sat her down on the bed and I explained to her what was going on, and I kind of, in a sense, made her tell me what she thought my diagnosis was. I kept making her guess what I needed to tell her, and then finally she did. And the next morning, she was just like bent over the ironing board, like crying and sobbing. And then she kept talking to me about it. And then she went through this phase where she like burned all my Wizard of Oz stuff. She was like, we're not gonna have no wizards and witches in this house. It took my mom a very long time to be able to say the word gay. It was really, really difficult for a long time, and we got it tore our family apart. We fought a lot. I felt judged when she would come see my shows. And I have to say that my mom has come a long, long, long way, and she's so supportive of me now.
How are you guys today?
Today we're good. She's very accepting. She comes to my shows. She loves my music and all its gay subject matter. If you had told the 16-year-old me that my mom would one day be here and fall in love with the guys that I date and want to come and support me at my shows, I would have probably not believed you. But it's still not that picture perfect thing where now she's just so pro it and she believes that it's not a sin. You know, like, but a lot of people believe that you're gonna go to hell for life, and when you really believe that, you fear for your child's life.
Why wouldn't you want to fight to the death to try and save them? Sometimes civility is kind of the best it can be, and that's a bummer, but that's why we have the families that we create. My mission is next year at Pride, I want to show that being a newly married lesbian is just as fun as being a single gay man.
I can't wait.
I can't wait.
We should do another house party next year for Pride Month and do a song, a lesbian anthem.
You know what? We should figure out something fun, like some bop for lesbians, because there's really not enough bops out there. Let me know some bops in the comments below. If you like this video, please make sure you click like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, all that good stuff. Let us know in the comments below, that sort of thing. And who do you think also should come on this amazing new program? If you guys want to find more of Todrick, where can people find you?
I'm on Instagram at Todrick, and my website, todrickhall.com, has all of the information about my upcoming tour, Waitress the Musical, and some fun new projects that I have coming up that I'm really excited to announce.
Oh, he busy. She's so busy. Yeah. Have a great day. Oh my God.